Hello, everybody. The primary objective behind all of our webinar initiatives is rooted in education. Each webinar we host is designed to provide valuable insights, demonstrate how, for lack of a better term, virtual assistants can effectively support your practice or firm. Furthermore, we aim to illuminate the meticulous process we employ once you decide that outsourced staffing is the right move. It's not just about choosing a team member. It's about ensuring they not only meet your expectations, but become a long-term asset. Today, I'm delighted to introduce two key executives from my firm who will delve into the intricacies of our process-driven approach. They will shed light on how we meticulously select the right staff members and ensure ongoing support throughout the entire relationship. This isn't just a transaction. It's a strategic communication-driven partnership between you, our valued client, and the staff we carefully choose. The success of this relationship hinges on open communication and a commitment to our proven processes and data-driven strategies. Without further ado, I'm honored to introduce Albert Yoshida, our country manager, David Justice, our director of operations, and our director of brand advocacy, Nathan Bush, who will guide us through today's webinar. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to a session filled with valuable insights and collaborative learning. Nathan, off to you.
Oh, Mike, thanks for that. I appreciate that introduction. Hi, guys. How are you?
Good. How you doing, Nathan?
Good. I'm super excited today. We are talking all about the intricacies of your roles and what you do in the organization. Thank you for taking the time and making the time, because I know that there's a lot of hard work that you guys go into and you're very busy, but we appreciate you taking the time from the marketing perspective to be able to share with the community what you do at large. Thank you so much for doing this today.
You're welcome.
All right, we've got a great show jam-packed for you guys. And in just a second, I'm going to bring David and Albert back up, and we're going to talk about each one of the intricacies of their different pieces. But before we jump into what David and Albert do and how they can help you and your organization, at BBC Global Services, we want you to understand that there's one thing, if there's one thing above it all that can help you lift your business to the next level, and that one thing is a HIPAA healthcare virtual assistant, HIPAA compliant healthcare virtual assistant. You're going to hear us use this terminology a lot today, healthcare virtual assistant. And a healthcare virtual assistant is much different than a regular virtual assistant. Number one, they're HIPAA certified. They're HIPAA certified. And I don't know many other organizations around the country that have got the capacity for HIPAA compliance that BBC Global Services does. And I think that's a testament to these team members here, David and Albert. I mean, you guys work tirelessly around the clock on this entire HIPAA program to protect data and protect the importance of people's private information, don't you?
We do. That's an important part of what we do.
Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about that today. We're going to talk a little bit about technology and communication. And I think that the reason I want to talk about communication, Albert, we'll bring you back up in just one second. Communication is a big part of what you do, isn't it, David?
It is. One of the things that is so important in any business is our ability to be able to communicate with each other, to communicate with our clients, to be able to with our clients' patients, right? That communication is one of the keys to our success, and something we really work hard on, being good communicators. It's very important.
You know, David, there's a statistic up on the screen, and I found this to be interesting. I went out and pulled this just before the show, and I found out that 58% of workers feel the need to be more available during this digital communication era. However, 60% feel increased burnout results. And we did an entire webinar about this whole concept of burnout recently. If people want to go back and watch and check out this concept of burnout and how to deal with burnout, there's an entire webinar series about it. However, we've done a great job in this digital era at BBC Global. Can you talk a little bit about, though, some of the struggles that businesses have whenever it comes to dealing with just this whole concept of communication?
Well, I think one of the things, especially when you're dealing with a virtual assistant, we're so used to just being able to run next door and talk to somebody, right? And just answer their, get their things. And when you're dealing with a virtual assistant where they're in another country or even, in another location, it's not as easy as just running next door. It takes a little more planning and forethought to be able to do that and increase that, communication level to be effective. I mean, that's really the key.
Yeah, if you're joining us for the first time and you're joining us on replay, we're talking with David Justice, who's the Vice President of Operations for BBC Global Services. We're talking communication right now. And David, when I was, my wife and I were first pregnant, we had to go to the hospital and take these classes. Are you familiar now? They make you take these classes whenever you first get pregnant.
Yeah, if you're pregnant, then we got something really special going on. I think.
Ah,
But when your wife was pregnant, you went with her. Yes, I have
yeah.
kids, and I've gone to those classes.
Remember how they said that the father is supposed to talk to the child while they're in the womb? Well, they had done some research studies, and the reason they brought that to my attention was it does a couple of things. Number one, it helps the brain develop when you talk to the child and they're in the womb. The second thing that it does is it establishes pathways of patterns of consistent communication between the father and the child. And so early in the relationship, communication is so important with a baby. We also find that it's so important with clients at BBC Global. In fact, I pulled this statistic here. I'm going to pop it up on the screen so everybody can see for 1 second. It says increased productivity works in this way. Nearly 70% of workers would be more productive with effective communication, and 69% of employees would work harder if they felt appreciated by their employers. Now, kind of, Dave, what are some of the things that you feel about that? Have you noticed this?
Well, I think one of the things that's very important is that if somebody's working at home, or even us as a international company, with employees in 5 different countries, right? We don't want anybody to ever feel like they're just working in their home, or in the office location within that part. We really want to keep them that communication and connection with them. So we really make extra efforts to be able to communicate with them, engage in activities. We have what we call worldwide town halls once a quarter. We have everybody come on to one big Zoom meeting, and they come in and they participate. And it's great opportunities to feel that connection to be able to do that. And that's one of the reasons that I think our employees work so hard for our clients, because they do feel that connection with us, and they kind of get the best of both worlds, because not only they feel connected with us as a company, but they also feel connected with our clients and their particular doctor, officer, whatever that business is. So they kind of get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, for sure. If you're a business owner online or a clinic owner and your team struggles currently with communication, what are some of those communication problems that you think you have right now? My recommendation to you is if you have some of those different communication problems, drop them in the chat and we'll come back behind and we'll help answer some of those questions on things that we've done internally to help solve some of those communication challenges internationally. So if you're wondering if we can help you with that, we do it internationally all day, every day. And I'd be happy if you have some challenges, go ahead and drop those in the chat. That way we also know who you are and where you're from. Like, at least introduce yourself if you're going to come on and say hi with us. All right. I got another statistic here about communication I thought that was interesting. And it's this: a substantial 86% of employees cite the lack of effective collaboration and communication as a main cause for workplace failure. That's 86% of employees are citing this lack of collaboration and communication as the main point of failure or breakdown. And Dave, I know that you're a published author. You've done some great things in your career. What are some ways that you find to help processize the communication efforts within business and organizations and firms?
Well, one of the I think it's a natural human feeling to want to be validated, to want to feel important, and whatever that is. And I think one of the things that's very important in the communication piece, like you're talking about, is that everybody wants to feel heard and feel like that they're contributing in a positive way. And so for us, it's very important that we're able to bridge that gap between what our clients or doctors are trying to have our VAs do, and our VAs being able to communicate back with them and getting everybody on the same page. So it's very, it takes practice, but it's something that we really work hard at, and I think we're pretty good at.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And we'll bring you back up in just 1 second, Dave. Thanks for taking time to talk with us about communication. But I think that there's a vital link between communication and success in a business, and that link is data. The more that you can articulate the challenges that are going on in your business, the more that you can articulate, what productivity your staff members have and your employees have, the more likely you are to succeed on this whole concept around communication. And that's why I'm going to bring up Albert. Albert, I want to share a statistic with everybody, and I'm going to ask you a question here, or at least not a statistic. McKinsey Group did some research, and they found that the use of analytics to enhance decision making, automate processes, and create new business ventures is recognized across various industries, with leading organizations already seeing significant business value from leveraging data and analytics. And I know that you've played a significant role at BBC Global about data analytics. How have you seen this data help organizations?
So it's not a secret when you actually know what you're doing. When you know where you want to go, you have to be able to measure that, and you measure that through data. And one key asset, one example I could give of how we were able to do much better with data is through our recruitment. We were having some challenges, so we put the data together. We created a report, and in 2 weeks' time, we were able to turn things around. So that's just what data can give you. It can
Yeah, it
give
gives
you. Mhm.
the opportunity to have the communication about it, to talk about what's
Right.
actually going on. And so data is extremely important in organizations. And this McKinsey group, they did a lot of research. And so I utilize McKinsey whenever I'm talking specific things about data, because they do a lot of research into this. In fact, they found around 60% of CIOs and CTOs believe that the need for data analytics expertise is more acute than other talent gaps. So businesses are lacking this, clinics are lacking this ability to understand data. That makes BBC Global a little bit unique then, doesn't it?
Right. Because yeah, we always run the numbers. I run the numbers. So we actually are a team that looks at the numbers, making sure that we actually provide the the best kind of service through the data.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's a unique skill that you have, and the ability to be able to measure performance within an organization. There was this statistic, and I'm going to pop it up on the screen for everybody to see, Albert. It just says that success data analytics programs involve a clear strategy, best practices in several key areas, including strategy, value, talent, organizational governance, technology, and tools. And then you also should measure integration and adoption. These factors are crucial for achieving competitive advantages and impactful decision making through data analytics. And this was done, another study done by McKinsey. And the reason that I popped that up for everybody to be able to take a look at those statistics and those reports are because when you have accurate data and you can measure the proper things within a business, doesn't it end up producing better results? Have you seen some cool results for some of our clients because we've been able to measure data?
Yeah, for sure. We actually recently had a client that was trying to figure out, you know, how to best handle their phone calls because they were just kind of missing more than they should that they like. So we ran the data for them. Figured out the best way we actually should staff, and we staffed based on the data. And lo and behold, we were able to increase the answer rate to 10% to where they want to be. So the entire decision making process was driven by the data that we ran.
Voila, there you have it, guys. We're talking with Albert right now. Albert is head of Philippines, the country manager in Philippines, and he's also part of our client success team. And he has been intricate in some of this data. And we're going to bring Albert back up to talk specifically about your job in just one second. But I do want to bring David back up, and I want to have a conversation with you, Dave, specifically about your role and what things that you do that have a major impact for clients. So one of the first questions that I had for you, I'm hearing some feedback on this line right now. There we go. Perfect. All right. One of the things that one of the questions I did have for you is this question here. What does a good client look like, and how do we know? So we know that communication can be a problem. We know data can be an issue in organizations. But what does a good client look like for us, and how do we know that they're a good client?
Well, Nathan, the secret for us is that, we're just not looking to find them a VA, right? A virtual assistant. What we are looking to do is to find the right VA for them because we're forming a partnership with them, we partner with them for their success. So, the best clients are, like we talked, the good communicators, right? Those are the doctors or clients that are responsive to our messages, right? To the information that we share with them. They provide feedback. What's going well, and where do we need to be able to improve so we can make those corrections as we go forward. And they're collaborative. What happens is when we begin to do this and we work closely with them, this collaboration for their success is very, very important. And it works very well. The other thing that really makes a good client is somebody who really understands their systems, right? Because every doctor's office is different, right? Every one that we have, now they might have the same EMR, they might have, a few things that are similar, but the way they operate their practice is different. So the doctors that do best with us are the ones that have a process and know what they do and have a way to be able to teach that. And so that our VAs can learn that, our team can learn that. And that really helps separate the good clients, because if they don't have all those things, if they're not a good communicator, they don't have processes, we can't create processes for their office, right? We can work with them on what we base on our experience to be able to enhance that thing. But, it's very important that they work closely with us. And I'm sure we'll talk more about that, what we do to help doctors with that, but that is one of the keys.
It brought to my attention something. What was it over your career that made you so process oriented? Like, you're very methodical about step one, step two, not missing parts in the checklist. That's been instrumental in our organization. What is it that helped you to understand the importance of that?
I don't know where I got it from, but I'm a planner. I like to plan. I like to know. And I think that helps with people, right? You're talking about having children. When your children know what you expect and you set those expectations for them, they do better, right? So what happens is, I think it's the exact same thing. We set up these processes so that we can be consistent in the product and services that we provide our clients, right? So it's not one thing for this doctor's office, it's completely for the other doctor's office. There's a lot of commonalities and things that we do for everybody that helps ensure that success. And so by having good processes set up and everybody following that same process over and over again, it provides much better results.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. When my daughter first started in volleyball, she was brand new. She didn't have any skills. She didn't know what a bump was. She didn't know what a set was or a spike was. And she has to develop these skills over a period of time. And when we first started working with her, developing her skills, the only thing I had her do was, when she came home and she wanted to practice at home with me, I wouldn't even do any other drills or practice other things with her, except for we bumped the ball to ourselves 10 times in a row. We said, if you can't bump the ball to yourself 10 times in a row, it's going to be real difficult to bump the ball to somebody else 10 times in a
Right.
row. And so, I think we find some of the best clients are people who understand that philosophy of get really good at the one thing and then add the next thing and the next thing, very process oriented about where's the skill set that you're bringing somebody on with, what is the process that they know and understand, and where would you like them to be, and work them methodically through mastering each one of those things. Would you agree with that?
That is 100% true. And actually, we'll talk about that. But one of the keys to our success is that we're constantly learning and being able to apply things, and we share all that information with our clients. And he's already done a thing through us, but that, Dr. Metu was one of our doctors who was able to take somebody with no experience and put them through quickly. Within 6 weeks, had him doing everything he needed to do with no experience in any medical background. I said, hey, how'd you do that? And he shared with us what he did. And so we call that the Metu method. And we share that with all our new clients as a part of our orientation. So when we bring on clients, we have a very specific onboarding process that we follow. And there's a reason behind each of those things that we do.
Yeah, speaking of the onboarding process, walk us through your client onboarding process in more detail. What specifically are the steps to ensure good success with onboarding new clients?
Well, one of the things that's so important is it doesn't start with the client success department. It actually starts with our business development team, right? They're really working closely with doctors and potential patients to find out where they're at, what do they need, and make sure that we're a good match before we even get to the client success. But the first thing that we do when somebody puts in what we call their statement of work, what they want us to be able to do from the sales team, is we will have an orientation meeting with them. And the reason that we do that is we want to make sure that everything that they're saying on the statement of work, that we understand what those pieces are and what those next steps are. So, for example, we clarify the expectations of what the work is. We help identify what are those, it's about data. What are those key performance indicators that they're looking for from their VA, right? What are they expecting from them? We review everything from how the breaks work to the holiday schedules, right? Those kind of things, to their systems. What is their EMR? What is their phone system? How do those things work? We identify with them. We realize that most doctors have not ever done this before, right? So we support them in working with them. How are they going to communicate with their VA? What is the method to be able to do that? How is that person going to access their EMR or their phone system? We're able to provide them all of that support in this orientation. Now, one of the keys to the orientation, we always kid. We have Alicia, who's a member of our team here, and she's US based, and we call her the matchmaker, right? So she will attend the orientation and she listens in specifically what are the characteristics that the doctor or the client is looking for in a VA. And then what she does is, it's hand selects candidates out of our pools who match the criteria for what the doctor is looking for. When we do this, what we do is we've created these profiles. So Albert talked about our recruiting process. When we recruit somebody and we decide that they're good enough to be able to endorse the clients, we create a profile for them that we then share with the client. They're able to click on that profile. They open it up. Inside, they'll see the interview. We just do like a 5-minute interview part of what they need to know so they can actually hear the potential candidate. They can hear their English, hear about their background. We include their resume, and then we also include some things about their English competency. So they have all that in their different pieces. So it's not like a dating website where you're going to looking through hundreds of people. Alicia specifically looks for candidates that match your criteria because, number one, we know doctors are busy. They don't have time to be looking through all those things. So we try and send them the good candidates. Now, we don't always match exactly what they're looking for, but that's where that feedback comes in when they say, hey, look, I really like Jimmy, but this is more of what I need, right? I always compare it to like when you're buying a house, right? You might love the kitchen, but you really need a 2-car garage too, right? So we ask for that feedback from them, what more they're looking for so we can refine that. But in all honesty, Nathan, we've gotten pretty good at Alicia being able to endorse those candidates. So what happens is we'll send them 2 or 3 candidates. They look at those profiles and then they say, hey, I'd like to meet with whoever that candidate is. And then what happens is we set up what we call a meet and greet. And that's very similar to this. One of our members of our client success team, the actual candidate and the client have a meeting. It's a chance for them to be able to interview this person, ask specific questions about their skills, to make sure they're a good personality match, right? Find out how they are and learn a little bit more. And those will last anywhere from 10 minutes to a half hour. It really depends on the client, how much information or questions they want to be able to ask. And because we do all those things, we have very low turnover because we screen people, we process people, we do these meet and greets. It takes a lot of the mystery out of what's happening because people know what they're getting into because of that preparation. And so, it's a powerful part of that onboarding process that we do.
Yeah, I mean, the last thing in the world we want to do at BBC Global Services is waste anybody's time. So I have this next question for you, Dave, and could you discuss then for us how your client onboarding process helps ensure the success of the clinician's healthcare virtual assistant? How does this process ensure the success is really what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, so one of the things that number one is that because we work with the doctors and make sure they have a process, we have a corporate trainer who is there in the Philippines working with them. Her and her team work very closely being able to implement these trainings. They'll attend the trainings. They'll be able to do those things. The other thing is that we take each of our healthcare VAs and they go through 40 hours of intense, like basic, HIPAA boot camp, you might call it, right? So they are learning, we get them HIPAA certified. We teach them about EMRs. We teach about proper communication, active listening. We teach them about verification of benefits. We go through all those basic things. So before they even meet with the client, they already feel a certain level of confidence about what's expected and what they're needed to be able to do. The other thing that's very important with that is that they also have a team leader, and that team leader is there to support them. So they're listening to them, they're supporting them, they're providing them with whatever the specific needs that they have, right, throughout this process, right from the beginning. And when I think what happens is when you're starting a new job, everybody wants to do well, right? They come in and they want to do a good job. And because we go, above and beyond what the, industry standard is or requirements on these things, are really making sure we're nailing down the training, understanding what's going on and supporting them. It works really well for the doctors that we work with because they know that there's a whole team behind this one person, right? It's not somebody who's just out on their own, trusting to be able to do that. We have Albert and his technology team. We have a training department. We have team leaders. We have what's called campaign assistants. Campaign assistants are somebody who can also train within that campaign, and they're kind of like a substitute teacher. So if your VA has needs a day off for some reason, then the campaign assistant already knows your campaign and then can fill in. So there's a lot of things that we do that not everybody else does. And we don't do those. We do those because we're trying to provide the best service that we can. In our model of the supervised model, we have our VAs come to the office, right? So they're already in a group of other VAs where they can answer questions, be able to get that support. They have their team leaders, but we also do engagement activities with the employees. We have what we call our high performers club, which is where we recognize and reward the people that are going above and beyond. So there's a lot of things that we do to set up a culture or an environment of hardworking people that want to be successful, that want to do things for the benefit of their client.
That's really a testament, I believe, Dave, to the core values of BBC Global Services. I mean, these core values run through and through with every single statement that you're making. I'm going to pop the core values up on the screen. And I believe you had something to do with setting up the core values of the organization, didn't you?
Well, one of the things that was very important to us is because we're dealing with, if we only had one client, then we could just use their core values, right? But because we have many clients that we service, what we do is we came up with these core values. For example, 100% ownership. What we do is we want that healthcare VA to come in and for them to take action as if they were the owner, to be willing to make suggestions and make things better than the way they found it, so to speak. The old Boy Scout thing, to be able to really bring them in. And that starts with dependability, right? They have to be dependable and showing up in the thing. So we have very, very low turnover. Our absence rate is also very, very low. The next thing that's very important for us is that communication, the core value. We set that expectation with them right in the beginning that we need them to be able to be giving, receiving, and sharing information, not only with us, with the doctor's office to be able to do that. And then the last thing is the skills, right? So they might not have all the skills initially, but we're always encouraging growth, right? We want them to continue to improve and be better than they were than when they started. And because of those core values, we don't just say them. These are things that we believe. As a company, we will pay for somebody to get a further education. We will pay for them to further their education. We have extra trainings and things that we offer to allow people to have better skills. So, when we talk about these things, that's all a part of that collaboration that I'm talking about. When we begin to work with a doctor's office, we're invested in our people, so our people can be invested with that doctor's office.
Gosh, that's so different in today's economy, in today's society, to have a vendor partner that cares about their people and that takes care and invests in their people. That's just so different. You know, that it reminds me, I don't know if you've ever worked for the opposite guys. We're talking with Dave Justice today, and Albert Yoshida is be up here in just a second. Both are instrumental in building the BBC Global Culture, Resource, Organization, and Tools for you as a clinic provider. But I don't know as a clinician if you've ever worked for a boss or an organization or a provider that was just horrible. I mean, think back to that time where you worked for that person, or maybe you had that internship or that job, and those people were just difficult. They didn't believe in you, they didn't invest in you. You were just there. That's the exact opposite of the culture that's crafted or created at BBC Global. Dave Justice just walked you through the core values of the organization and helping you to understand that we take this culture concept seriously. In fact, the core values bleed over into our feelings and thought processes around HIPAA compliance. And Dave Justice has been instrumental in helping our organization have a HIPAA compliant organization. Dave, can you discuss how the main HIPAA how you maintain HIPAA compliance and what you specifically, your role in making sure we stay HIPAA compliant?
Well, Nathan, what's interesting is we take HIPAA compliance very, very serious, sometimes more serious than the doctors who we work with. So we work with them to make sure that we're compliant because we're really protecting their patients' information. So we work very closely with them on what those things are. But the first thing that we do is we have a third-party HIPAA compliance company that vets us. They audit us annually. They are consultants for any questions that we have. And, in the different things that we can run through us, they have said that we are by far the most active company out of all that they have as far as HIPAA goes.
Yeah, they hailed us as the example within their book of companies that follow HIPAA compliance. And we've got that entire webinar. You can go back and watch the HIPAA compliant webinar. But yeah, go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
Yeah, but there's some of the things that we do. First of all, we take it serious, right? So the second thing is every one of our leaders and every one of our HVAs is HIPAA certified. Okay, so they're HIPAA certified by the training company to be able to do that. We have HIPAA compliance team members, both on the ground there in the Philippines, as well as here in the US, that are monitoring and following things to be able to do that. And one of the things that's unique is every VA has a company computer, right? So they have a company computer that we provide them their own computer. It has its password protected screensavers. They all have individual credentials for the doctor's EMRs, phone systems, whatever the different things that they're working on. We do not share any of those passwords or any of those things. Everybody's required to have their own credentials. I have them update the passwords to the computers every 3 months so that those don't become stale or familiar to be able to do that. If for some reason an employee is terminated, we immediately remove access to their user ID so they aren't able to gain those things. And we do a couple other unique things too, Nathan. Is because we're actually in an office environment, we have a whole wall of lockers. And when a VA comes in, the first thing they do is before they start their shift, they put their personal belongings in their phone in the locker. So they're not tempted to be doing anything they shouldn't be doing when they're actually working. They don't have access to a camera. They don't, they're not texting or chatting or distracted by those other things. Very, very important. And then the other thing for the technology side, we have Albert and his team, we have firewalls, antivirus software. There's a lot of things that we do. I don't think there's probably a day that goes by that we aren't keeping our level of HIPAA awareness, something that we're talking about doing better or reviewing or those kind of things to make sure that we are compliant. That is very, very important to us, which is why, we go beyond all these extra steps, more than what's required.
That's incredibly awesome, and that's a testament to the success that we have with clients. And as a VP of operations, I mean, you just lead the charge in making sure that we stay compliant, process-wise, to all of that stuff. So that's incredible. Speaking of client success, I want to bring Albert back up. We'll bring you back up in just a little bit, Dave, to finish up the show.
Right,
Thanks for taking some time. So Albert, so you run the Philippines office for client success, huh?
Yes, that's correct. Yes, I actually work on the ground with the people that they hire, and I make sure that these people are set up for success.
So talk a little bit about your role then. Like when we say client success, what do you do?
Right. So for client success, I mainly just close or bridge the gap, right, between the cultures from the U.S. Because again, the U.S. has a different work culture than the Philippines, and mainly it all just boils down to just bridging that gap, making sure that they understand, or our people here understand what the clients in the U.S. are talking about or wanting them to do.
And we'll talk about bridging the culture in just one second, but like in any given day, what are some of the tasks and responsibilities, things that you do?
Oh, I actually make sure that I reach out to the clients. So if the clients have any issues with their person, I'm your go-to guy. I talk to the people. I ask them, what went wrong, what happened, why did we fall short of the expectations? And when they actually tell me that, I try to give them some advice as well. If I know what they missed, and then I go back to the client, hey, this is actually what I found out, and these are the things that we're gonna do to make things better moving forward.
And I know that we don't often fall short on campaigns, and so those conversations are few and far between with more of the meticulous onboarding aspects that we have. But so
Sure.
then, what are some of the ways that, like, if there is something that's a little rocky, what are you doing to bring them back on base with the campaign to get everything back in kosher and making sure the clinics are happy?
Oh, when that happen, like when we kind of know, right? Again, we go back to the data. The data doesn't actually state that this is actually going great. We go to the client, we talk to them. It's going back to the communication of it. We communicate with the client. Hey, we seem to be missing some things, and we kind of want to talk to you about what you think we could do better. And we also talk to the people. We have a great operational team that's actually working with the people directly, and so we kind of want to make sure that they're in line, everyone's in line, and that that only happens with communication.
For sure. Now, here's a challenge, right? Because you're bridging international culture, you're bridging international relationships here. And that's, I think, one of the major benefits of having Americans and Philippines on the same success team, working to make sure that we have good operations for the clinic. So, can you discuss some of the benefits of having American and Philippine team members on your client success team?
Sure. So you know, it's actually good that you actually have like both perspective on the same team, because then we could just talk internally uh, to make sure that we actually make it a seamless experience for our clients. So it's my team here in the Philippines, David's team in the US. In fact, we made real improvements in how we onboard clients. Just talking internally. Hey, these are the things that we actually do here in the Philippines, and maybe that's not really clear uh, within the US. So maybe there's something that we could do to make a middle ground. And we were able to kind of bridge the gap, make the doctors understand, make the clinics understand, and of course help us understand, right? So it's not like, hey, this is the way we should do it. It's more like, okay, this is how we normally do it, but we could do this, right? There's always a compromise. But yeah, we were able to be more successful just by being able to communicate better between my team and then our US counterpart.
For sure, for sure. And I think one of those things that we were able to identify is this technology thing, this technology gap. And we want to make sure that the clients have a thorough understanding that we know how to integrate our services and their current technology. Can you discuss how our technological understanding and advantages are there from an onboarding perspective? What did you do, or what do we do now that it has become so critical in the success of a lot of our clients, and why we get such great testimonials and case studies from a lot of
Right. So the first thing that we did was just add more people to our IT department. So we now have
them?
more people to kind of support the HVAs. So again, the HVAs are supporting their business. We of course had to support the HVA whenever they have a computer issue. Not everyone's well versed, so we get that resolved very very quickly. We also have great understanding of existing EMRs, VoIP phone systems, and other medical technology that are out there. So we actually do some research when we actually encounter something new. We also do some research on that, so that we don't kind of, you know, there's not much of a learning curve for us. We just, hey, we already know your stuff. We can definitely help you. And so again, by being masters of what we already have as well, we're able to integrate the client systems well into ours. So, it becomes a very seamless experience.
Yeah,
So,
and
mhm.
that's huge. I mean, that's everything from I'm sitting there. I'm a clinician. I'm trying to figure out how is BBC Global Services in the Philippines going to answer my phone. How is BBC Global Services going to respond to my patients in HIPAA compliant, texting apps? How is BBC Global Services going to actually be able to process and get to me the insurance verifications, right? Like you're trying to solve that problem on your own in your head right now if you're a clinician. And I'm here to tell you that's what we have experts like Albert on our team and his staff of client support to be able to help you. Think about it like this: when you hire a healthcare virtual assistant, you don't only just get that virtual assistant. You get the virtual assistant, you get the supervisor, you get the data aspect of the things that we do, the daily reporting, so that you get better information for your own decision making. You get access to these experts and these IT teams that are here to help and support those team members. Like there's so much that goes into, so much value that goes into receiving your healthcare virtual assistant. And you've got that onboarding specialist that's going to work through the integration to make sure seamlessly that when we cut over and we say, yes, go, I now have a healthcare virtual assistant that's helping me, that person can work effectively from day one we make that decision. And is there things that we need to train on? Yes. Is there things that we need to do in order to make sure that we bridge the skill gaps and that they learn your systems and processes? Yeah, that's training. That's training any new employee. But just like hiring an internal employee, you get access to the rest of that resource in order to make sure that that employee is successful on your campaign. And so, Albert, uh, not only is technology important from an overall standpoint when it comes to working with a virtual assistant, but the other thing that's important when working with a virtual assistant is understanding the unique challenges and opportunities of having agents from the Philippines, right? So there are when you're hiring a healthcare virtual assistant, you're hiring somebody from the Philippines culture. Can you discuss some of the unique challenges and opportunities when working with someone from the Philippines? You live in the Philippines, correct?
Yes, I'm 100% Filipino, through and through. But I shouldn't say that. My last name is Yoshida. But yeah, so it's not like through and through. I did have a mix. So for the challenges, uh, again, I want to preface this. I don't want to actually like say anything bad about my people. Filipinos are hardworking, and we're generally easygoing by nature, and we like to help, right? But of course, the challenges comes with the weather. We're in the typhoon belt. We get a lot of typhoons. Uh, well, what's unique about Davao and where we are at, right? We actually have other places that we operate in, but for Davao, where our headquarters is at, we don't necessarily get a ton of typhoons passing through us. But what that does, though, is that we do get a lot of rain, and so that can be a challenge. The heavy downpour can cause some downtimes. The other one that I'd like to talk about would be language barrier. It's not just understanding what you say or what the clients say. It's also just understanding what they meant by what they said. You know, not a hit on my people, but again, like sometimes sarcasm doesn't necessarily kind of go through. They don't necessarily understand that. They don't quite get it. But that's
Really?
fine. Something like that, right? Like goes over the head. But that's not because they don't understand. It's just a difference in language. Um, Also, another challenge, and I think everyone actually experienced this if they've done outsourcing. It's when they say yes. It's when your people say yes, but they don't understand. They just want to say yes so that you don't have to repeat yourself, and maybe you
Yeah,
get
yeah, yeah.
mad. You're right. So those things, and Yeah, I think that's gonna be it. Like that's going to waste a lot of your time too. Like if they always just say yes, but they don't understand, there two things will happen. It's either they won't do it, or they will try to do it, but they would be very wrong in what they try to do, and so you end up with a, well, a redo of what you're supposed to do. Like it's a rework. At that point, you've wasted time. So
Yeah.
those are the challenges.
And one of the philosophies that we've just adopted is do one, see one, teach one when you're training somebody. So they watch you do whatever it is that you want done. They do one, then they see one. So so they see one, then they do one. I mean, and so that gives them the ability to do it, right? And then so
Right.
they saw you do it. They now have done it, and now they teach you how to do it. And if they can do that, then they pretty much have a thorough understanding of how to do that specific job. Correct?
That is correct. Yes, that's the best way to do it.
Yeah. One of the other things we were talking about the other day is like when you start using flowery language, metaphors, similes, things like don't break a leg, that makes a lot of sense to an American, but to a Filipino, they're like, what are you talking about? Break my leg. Like, this doesn't make any sense. So we got
Right.
to make sure that we bridge those language gears. But here's the real interesting thing to me, Albert. Like, you've got impeccable English. We were talking the other day. How did you learn how to speak English so well? Like the nuances and the intricacies of the cultural differences?
So I did actively learn. So that may be different, but I also did, as a child, enjoy cartoons from the West, uh,
Now, what
namely.
cartoons did you watch? Everybody wants to know.
Right. Yeah, that's gonna be Dexter's Laboratory. Again, I'm short. I can relate, and
Uh,
like the science stuff.
yeah, yeah. So go ahead and put your favorite cartoon in the comments below as well. We'd love to know what your favorite American cartoon is. So go ahead and put that in the comments below. You were also telling me you can't hide from this because we had this conversation ahead of time, and I
Mhm.
asked you about movies that you liked. And what was one of your best movies to learn English from?
Right. So, I mean, I'd hate to admit this, but I've watched that movie 8 times in a row. So I spent about 10 hours of my life just watching one movie, and that's the first time. I should have actually looked up the name of the actor, but I no, it was O'Brien or something like that.
The
He was good.
first
He was
time.
good. Yep.
So that's a romantic comedy, huh?
Yes, it's
So
high school.
so what was it about the romantic comedy that helped you learn English so well?
Oh well,
Other than the fact that you got great hair from it.
no, it's more like what I actually like about rom-coms, right, in general, is that they don't necessarily try to impress you with CGI, the action, the thrill and all that. They just actually go for the dialogue. And when you actually are engaged in the dialogue, you actually learn more about the language itself. And that's how I learned more about the English language. I understood the sarcasm, I understood the metaphors and all of those things. Just that, like I mean, it's cheesy, it's funny, I know, but it's just how I learned. Can't
It's
run away
different
from
than
it.
Marvel movies, huh?
Right, yeah. Well, of course, like you can't really be more of a or you can't really add a lot of dialogue in Marvel because they're shooting lasers. Come on.
Well, they are going to cast me for the next Hulk, you know.
Oh, I would be I would be in the movies. I'd be in the theaters day one.
Oh my gosh! All right, I'm going to bring some guys back up to stage here, and we just want to have a conversation. So, guys, I'm going to pop something up on the screen, and we'll come right back. Dr. Med2 has been one of our advocates, is a client of ours. We've done great work for him. What has been your guys' experience working with great clients like Dr. Med2, who's been one of our best case study examples that we have been able to showcase? Obviously, he helped us with the Med2 method. What has been some of your experience with working with Dr. Med2?
I'll field that for a second.
Sure.
Yeah, he let us. We learn a lot from our clients. Um, So like any good company, we're constantly evolving. And as much as we may have all the skills we're sharing for people here, the only way that we get better is from the clients. They're the ones that fill in the gap, right? We may have all the technology, we may have all the knowledge on how to run contact centers and all that sort of stuff, but it's from learning from our clients like Dr. Betu that let us really be able to serve, right? Because knowing how to do the work, knowing how to use the MRs, knowing how to use the phones is really 3/4 of it. But in the last quarter, which is the most important, is how to interact with that client, how to interact with that client's staff. And that's what makes us sincerely different than the rest of them, is we learn from our clients. Dr. Metu shares information with us. All of our other clients share information with us that makes us better as a company. And when they do the webinars, right? Like Dr. Metu did a webinar, and other doctors have done webinars to showcase how they're able to use virtual assistants to augment their practice. They're teaching our prospective clients, our existing clients, and us. And that's how I would say that clients like Dr. Metu has impacted, us and our business, and are really what makes us better is our clients' interaction with us.
Yeah,
And
I was
Dave,
going to.
I was going to say, Dave, you meet with Dr. Metu on a pretty regular basis.
Yeah, we meet once a month just to kind of see what's going on, because he gives us the perspective about what he's seeing in his clinic, what he's hearing from other doctors and different things. And why that's so valuable to us is because, like I said, we always want to be better. We're not doctors. We're not in doctor's office. Our VAs are only working that. They don't know what, there's been different things that, when we originally thought of VAs, we thought about them just answering phones. And then you learn, verification of benefits, billing, all these different things and different aspects that a doctor's office needs. It's so valuable to us to be able to do that. And I think he's been the prime example of somebody who is just willing to communicate what's going on to see if we're able to help, and to be able to provide us the honest feedback. And because of that, we developed a great relationship with him. We're not like talking to him every day, like a burden or anything like that. But, what's good about him is he's always willing to share ideas. He's always willing to listen. He's willing to talk to, if we have a doctor or somebody coming in that have questions, he's willing to meet with them, and he's totally honest with them. He's straight up based on his experience and what we've been able to work together on. And I think, to Mike's point, the reason it's been so successful with him, because we are able to be open with each other. We are able to learn from him, and him to be able to share things, so that we can be better, and in turn service his practice better and all of our clients. That's really one of the keys for him.
And I'll add to that, if you want to know more about Dr. Metu, go to our website and download the case study that Dr. Metu did with our organization. There's no wall, there's no gate. Go read about it, go learn, and get the information right off of bbcglobalservices.com's website. That way you can have a better understanding of how you can achieve similar results that Dr. Metu achieved in his oculofacial plastic surgery clinic. Right? So it's so important. We work not just with oculofacial plastic surgeons, but we work with optometrists, chiropractors. We work with general practice doctors. If you have a clinic, a physical therapist, if you have a clinic and you need help, and you're just feeling a little stressed or burned out, or maybe your staff's feeling a little stressed or burned out, or maybe you just need additional help. Maybe nobody's burned out yet, but you just need the additional help. Reach out to us. There's a link in the description of this show. Click the link, set up a time to talk with one of our representatives. They'll be happy to help you. Now, we not just work with Dr. Metu, because you guys probably have seen his face all over a lot of the BBC Global stuff. You've seen the Metu method. You've watched on previous webinars with Dr. Metu, but we also work with a number of other doctors like Dr. Agarwal here. And I have to ask you guys, how have you helped great clients like Dr. Agarwal achieve her clinic results? Like, what do we do? What kind of results do we get for people like Dr. Agarwal?
But I just want to
I'll say.
Go ahead. I was going to say.
I was going to
just one of the things that I love about their story was when they came on, they were hesitant to even take on one VA, right? And then next thing we knew, we want two VAs. Oh, next thing you know, we're referring my father, who was also an eye doctor. Now they have three VAs. And I think really a testament to what we do is one of our number one sources of referrals are other doctors who just on their own are very happy with the service that we're providing and are telling other doctors that they should check us out to be able to do that. They are the perfect example of that because we're helping them grow their practice by having these VAs to come in. And the question always becomes: Are we taking away jobs from Americans? We are not. You can't get somebody to go and work in an office for $35 an hour to come and do the things that our VAs are doing for them. So we're providing that same high quality for them to be able to be successful. And because we're able to adapt to the different needs of the office, I mean, all three of those people are not doing the exact same thing, but the first person trained got really good at that. They trained to do something else and brought in somebody. So, there's progression within that. And, I think they're the perfect story of that, of how we're able to come in and they saw the value and were able to build and help them build their practice.
And to say one thing to that, and then it goes back to my original thing, was the fact that we learn from our clients. And with that said, our clients learn from our clients. And that's about the communication. When we bring on a new account, right, a new clinic, a lot of times we invite them to contact, a practitioner to share, what they're doing, how they're doing it, what they're doing. And we have more practitioners that would love to share their information, this information with other practice owners. It's the total ecosystem that works, right? And that goes back to Dr. Agrawal, Dr. Metu, a host of other doctors and practice owners that have found, such value in the outsourced staffing that they're willing to share it with other practice owners, doctors, to help them. And the one thing that's amazing is, unlike other verticals that we're in or business units, they're not as sharing as the medical community, which is a testament to that community on a whole. So we learn, going back to the main thing, we learn from our clients, and our clients learn from our clients, and that's what makes us special.
Yeah, and if you guys can't tell, facts, communication, data, these are things important to us. And if you want more of that about what a VA service can do for your organization, go to the BBC Global Services website and download these case studies. Dr. Agrawal's case studies on there, Dr. Medtu's case studies on there. In fact, we have YouTube videos. We also have previous lives that we've done, webinars that we've done. If you need those things, reach out to one of our staff members. We'll be happy to get you the entire video. You can watch the thing. You can see how the doctors have integrated the VAs into their service and the results that they're getting whenever it comes to working with medical healthcare virtual assistants here that are HIPAA compliant. All right.
Nathan, can I just say one thing about those case studies too,
Yeah.
that I think is important? Is they volunteered to do those case studies. They weren't paid. We didn't say, hey, we'll pay you to do that. It was because of their experience, and they were able to do that. And we actually have a third party who actually does the case study. So we don't tell them what to ask or what to do. They ask all their own questions. They communicate with that doctor. So those case studies are not a template that we just have them fill out. That is real facts and information that are gathered from a third party who goes in and asks, very specific questions of the doctors that have agreed to do that. And I think that they're willing to do that for free, to give up their time and effort to be able to do that. Again, is another testament to the hard work and the benefit that they're receiving from our company and our VAs.
So I have to say, if research is your thing and you like research the same way that Albert likes romantic comedies, go check out those case studies on our website. It'll be real helpful for you to be able to get a better understanding of how to utilize a medical virtual assistant. All right, I got one last question for all three of you. Albert, you can't hide on this one. You got to answer it for us. Let's start with you. What advice would you give to other clinics that are considering outsourcing their healthcare virtual assistant needs?
Well, if you actually are hesitating, to kind of, I think we already talked about everything. If you're still hesitating, talk to us. Just try to understand what your business needs. Right, you're still the captain of your ship. If you're thinking that we're going to be, coming into your business, or when you work with us, we're going to be taking over your business. We're not. You're the captain of the ship. We are your crew, and so we will integrate in your business. We will find ways, technology wise, personnel wise, to make sure that we actually support your business.
Was that a metaphor, Albert? I'm impressed.
Not sure.
How about you, Mike? What would you say are some ways that if people are considering outsourcing, what advice would you give them?
I'm all for. I say talk to others. Talk to others. Find out the pros, the cons, um, what you have to think about. I'm all about having proper setup, proper foundation. I always talk about that. You need a proper foundation for anything to work right. And I think the client, and we force the foundation on all of our new clients to make sure that everything works out great. But I would say think about what it is that you want. Think about what it is that you need. Think about the what's the easiest way to make the most appreciative change in your practice, and write these things down. And everything doesn't have to be done at once. Remember that. Everything should be done in small chunks, right? Because no matter how great we are, no matter how great the company that you choose, you're still outsourcing a process to somebody else. And doing it slow and methodical is the best way to do it, with a lot of organization. And we, as well as any good outsourcing firm out there, will help you, because if it's not set up right, we're in trouble. Because the client is always right, and it's up to us and anybody you choose to set you up correctly. But that is the advice that I would give. Talk to people that use outsourced staffing, and think about what you want and need.
Yeah, if you're driving race cars and you take your race car and you just drive it across the dirt road, you're not going to get very far very fast. But if you lay the pavement first, you do the work to lay the pavement first, then the race car can actually get to where it wants to go. If your clinic is a race car and you have goals that you want to meet, if you'll just take the time to lay the foundation, to lay the pavement, and do the work, Mike's saying you're going to have wonderful success with a healthcare virtual assistant. And that leads me to David Justice, who you are the one that has laid this process, this onboarding process in place to ensure the communication, ensure the data setup are. What advice would you give a clinic from how do they prepare for that conversation with you?
I think one thing that's important that Mike has already brought up is the transparency. We are 100% transparent with you. I mean, when you're calling these other companies and stuff, I don't know that you could talk to the owner if you wanted to. You could call us and talk to Mike. He'll call you back. He'll visit with you. One of the things that I think is very important in what we do, just to emphasize that, is the HIPAA compliant. We're very diligent about that. We really work hard to partner with you. We're not just finding you somebody and dumping them off in their, house somewhere and never seeing them again. We really work closely with you to ensure the success, because your success is our success. That's the only way we're able to be successful. And because of that, you can ask us the hard questions and we'll give you the truthful answers. Like Mike said, we're not afraid of the hard questions, because we're willing to look for the answers and to apply things that make things better. And I think that's one of the great things about our company that you look for is, are they going to work with me to make sure that my VA is successful so that my practice gets the results and outcomes that I'm looking for? I mean, I think that's really the key. And that's what I would look for. Look for that level of transparency that you need to feel comfortable to be able to move forward.
Yeah, speaking of questions and transparency, guys, because we're over an hour and 5 minutes, I don't want to take up all of your clinic's time today. However, if you do have questions that you'd like to get answered, put them in the comments after this show, wherever you're watching this from, and we will get back to you and make sure that those questions get answered with transparency. And if we need to hop on a phone call in order to answer that question for you, we'll let you know that too. All right, Mike, I know that we're getting down to the time where we're wrapping up. Thank you very much, David and Albert, for being with us today. I really appreciate you guys on the show here. I appreciate you taking your time away from your busy schedules. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Nathan.
All right, and Mike, why don't you take us home? Let us know what people need to do and where to go and all that kind of stuff.
No, I wanted to just reiterate what I said in the beginning, is that all of our webinars are about education. We try to make them about education, a way that we can share with the people out there how to properly work with an outsourced staffing firm. We try to share the questions and answers in order for them to make an informed decision on whether or not it's right for their business or what part of it is right for their business. And from there, we are extremely happy to do it. Not to get down the rabbit hole here, but I've been doing this for a long time. I started outsourcing in 2000, and technology has changed and has made things a lot easier. But the one thing I can say, and what I brought up before, Nathan, is that no matter whether it's 2000 or 2023, if you're not organized, outsourcing is not going to work. If you don't know what you want, outsourcing is not going to work. So this is why these webinars are important, because we're trying to showcase what the things are you are to think about. What are the things are that you should talk to others about in order to see whether this is the right thing for you and how properly to use it. And on that note, I thank everybody for coming. Well, we didn't go anywhere. You sat at your office, but I thank everybody for sharing the time with us. And I hope, like with everything, we provided you a little bit more value and a little more information than you had before you showed up. And like Nathan said, like David said, like Albert said, feel free to call us. Feel free to talk to us, because we really like to discuss what it is that we do and see if we can be of help. So, Nathan, thank you so much. Everybody, thank you so much, and be well.